Welcome back, everyone. With so many RPGs coming out this year, I decided to make a top 10 list just for this genre. But that's not to say there aren't some great looking non-RPGs coming out too, because there are. But this video was all about my favorite genre, so without further ado, let's get into the top 10 RPGs you should be looking forward to in 2022. Metal Slug Tactics. Wait, what? That was my reaction to the Metal Slug series going tactical, and I couldn't be happier. Mixing roguelike elements and tactical role-playing game combat with a beloved franchise has resulted in a game I never knew I wanted. And Metal Slug Tactics also looks gorgeous, with beautiful sprite work that I won't mind looking at for hours and hours. Another intriguing element is also the fact there will be randomly generated maps in the game too, which could provide more replay value and the potential for different types of combat challenges. Very little is known about the overall narrative or the true scope of the game, but I've already been captured by how great the Metal Slug Tactics game looks, and this is one game I can't wait to learn more about before it releases sometime in 2022. Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. It's Final Fantasy VI. Need I say more? Final Fantasy VI occupies the top spot of best single-player Final Fantasy game, along with Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion. As a pixel remaster, Final Fantasy VI is being released with an updated pixel look that old school fans should appreciate. And it's strikingly apparent that a lot of effort was put forth to retain the pixel looks of the original game while giving it a fresh look for modern displays. And aside from visuals, there will be a few quality of life improvements as well, such as a rearranged soundtrack presided over by Nobuo Uematsu, the original composer of Final Fantasy VI. An auto battle feature with increased speed to alleviate any grind will also be added, and the ability to save anywhere. But most of all, it replaces the awful looking Final Fantasy VI Steam version that has existed for years, with something much more visually appealing. So get ready to experience one of the greatest Final Fantasies either for the first time or again in February. The Advance Wars series was long overdue for a return. Advance Wars is the other beloved strategic role-playing game series from Nintendo's Intelligent Systems that has been greatly overshadowed by its cousin series, Fire Emblem. Unlike Fire Emblem's medieval setting and units, Advance Wars is in a modern setting with modern units that consists of tanks, helicopters, destroyers, etc., all with the goal of obliterating your enemy and taking over their territory. And as harsh as that sounds, it's all done with a charming graphical style that has been enhanced into 3D with this title. Even though this is a remake of the first two Advance Wars titles, it still promises fun battles with an important focus on resource management and strategy. And it's complemented by unique army commanders with their own unique abilities and perks, which will greatly influence how battles unfold. Advance Wars launches on April 8th. Oh yeah, baby. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is the prequel title to Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, the third most successful video game Kickstarter of all time, which will release next year in 2023. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is a bonus game that is a result of said Kickstarter and is a side-scrolling action RPG with town-building elements very similar to the Super Nintendo hit Actraiser. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is another great-looking RPG in the HD 2.5D style that Octopath Traveler made famous. You can play as 3 different playable characters as you battle your way through gorgeous HD environments. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising will set the pre-war stage for Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes' story, while also telling its own story that will tie in somehow to the sequel. Full disclosure, I backed this project, and for a bonus project that I initially had no interest in, the game is looking more and more promising every time I see it. It releases sometime in 2022. Elden Ring. From Software is giving the Souls formula an injection of open world, but Elden Ring is still building on what came before and is promising a lot of the same from previous Souls titles, such as a variety of classes and combat styles to choose from, a dark narrative, beautiful yet somber locations to explore, and punishing difficulty from regular enemies and bosses alike. But what's new in Elden Ring shows a lot of promise. For example, mounted combat with your trusty new horse companion has been added, which I'm sure will give boss fights a new dynamic. And the less linear experience than previous Souls titles will hopefully make for some unique playthroughs. And based off of the previews I've seen, a lot of people are enjoying what Elden Ring is selling so far. And it'll be exciting to see what everyone thinks of this open world experiment when it releases on February 25th. From the esteemed developer Psy Games, creator of the mobile mega hit Granblue Fantasy, comes Psy Games' first foray into the console RPG sphere with Granblue Fantasy Relink. Relink offers a standalone Granblue adventure, so you shouldn't have to know anything about the mobile title to enjoy this one, as it promises a self-contained narrative. A great selection of the beautiful and charismatic characters Granblue is known for will be present in this title. So good thing it offers an action role-playing game experience capable of being played with up to 4 different characters at a time. The battle system, mixed with Granblue's flair for great-looking characters, environments, and use of color, all but promises another solid JRPG experience when the game releases sometime in 2022. Starfield, the new action RPG from Bethesda that I'm hoping will fill the Elder Scrolls and Mass Effect size holes in my heart. It's been several years since a new Mass Effect and a decade since the last mainline Elder Scrolls game, and Starfield is being touted as a proverbial Skyrim in space. It promises a ton of exploration, dialogue, more than twice the amount of Skyrim's, the ability to play in both first and third person, and will offer a ton of freedom for players, promising an open world concept with the ability to interact and join many different factions. There is still a lot that is unknown about Starfield, and there haven't been too many previews for the title yet, but it is set to release on November 11th, which is just in time to consume everyone's lives for the holiday. Project Triangle Strategy. Were you knocked out of your damn seat when this game was revealed? Because I sure was. Any fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, Tactics Ogre, or the tactical role-playing game genre in general were probably at a loss for words when this title was revealed. Project Triangle Strategy offers a dark, medieval tale with branching story paths, oh so satisfying tactical role-playing game combat, a solid challenge in terms of difficulty, some of the best sprite work I have ever seen, and outstanding character art. A lot of eyes are keenly fixed on this RPG, and with good reason. I had very few problems with the demo when I played it, and I found it to be a very enjoyable experience even in its demo state. But as a result of the demo's player feedback, Project Triangle Strategy has been further fine-tuned to provide an optimal gameplay experience and is currently set for release on March 4th. Sea of Stars. Full disclosure, this is another title that I helped fund on Kickstarter. Sea of Stars is being developed by Sabotage Studio, who brought the world the excellent Metroidvania The Messenger in 2018. Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG heavily inspired by the Squaresoft classic Chrono Trigger. And just as Chrono Trigger is a beautiful game, Sea of Stars possesses some of the most beautiful sprite work. I feel like I've been saying that a lot in this video, but it's true for so many of these games I have ever seen. Fantastic animations, in and out of combat, and one of the most colorful, vibrant looking worlds I have ever had the pleasure of seeing. Sabotage Studios' other game, The Messenger, was also a cleverly written and intriguing tale sprinkled with interesting lore. And if Sabotage Studio can give the same kind of treatment to the RPG genre that they did with the Metroidvania genre, this game is one to look out for and could quite possibly be an Indie of the Year contender and launches sometime in 2022. Final Fantasy XVI is being produced by Square Enix's Creative Business Unit 3, which is a big deal. This is the same division that created and maintains Final Fantasy XIV, which is one of the best RPGs you can play today, MMO or not. Final Fantasy XIV has developed into the perfect game for people looking for either a self-contained single-player experience, if they want to focus mostly on experiencing the story for themselves, and it also possesses one of the most populated, diverse group of gamers out there, with a community that any game would be glad to have for those that want multiplayer. And with Final Fantasy XIV's director Naoki Yoshida serving as producer for Final Fantasy XVI, I'm convinced the title is in good hands. Final Fantasy XVI looks to have a very dark fantasy setting that does not shy away from the use of blood and brutality, something Final Fantasy games don't often do. Final Fantasy XVI also looks to be more of an action title as well, similar to Final Fantasy XV, and stepping further away from the turn-based mechanics the series was born with. A lot is still unknown about Final Fantasy XVI, but it is supposed to release sometime this year. Thank you for joining me for another Top 10 list, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned a thing or two about one or two RPGs that you didn't know about before and might give a chance in the new year. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.